It's Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center, and our next guest is a presentation of Mr. Lube.
The Wipers event is on now. Have you been there?
It's Change Your Oil, Change Your Wipers event, Blake Price. It's on now. Visit MrLube.com. Download your coupon for a free pair of Goodyear hybrid wiper blades with any oil change, only for a limited time at Mr. Lube. 18 locations in the Lower Mainland. In fact, I was at the Arbutus Street location last month.
Did you see that teamwork, PJ? Did you see that teamwork? See how the winger picks up the little fumble from the center? Yeah.
I'm just wondering what the bear situation is at Mr. Lube, since the previous sponsor had a lot of bear issues.
Don't even get me started with the Bears. They ransacked my garbage this morning on garbage day.
And as for the winger thing, I felt like Elias Pettersson a whole lot here.
Woo! Wow, getting called Ilya Mikheyev to his face.
Wow,
you take that, Blake?
I thought he meant underachieving centers. I thought that's what he was referring to.
Oh, here we go.
It's hockey season.
It is hockey season. So let me just ask this. Does all of this stuff with Pettersson and Demko amount to they're just going to have to play through knee bobos? Like, is Demko have an injury here, or does he just have like what Elias has, inflammation, tendonitis, discomfort, and he's just going to have to push through? Is that your understanding at this stage of the game?
Well,
with the goaltender,
as I wrote in the end, does he show up on Thursday next week? And if he shows up on Thursday, listen, everything, all the clues, all the signs have been there that he had, he's not going to be there Thursday, or at least if he's there Thursday, he's not ready to go to be a full participant. Listen, you never, as I've said many times on this program, you never say never in hockey until it's happened or it hasn't happened.
Do you hold out is there a non-zero chance he starts training camp on time?
I mean, nothing is 100%. I don't think. Listen. Whoever's doing social media, do not turn this into me saying he's going to be there.
No,
I was pretty certain last spring. I would just like to remind everyone, I was pretty certain last spring that Phil Kessel was not going to be a Vancouver Canuck. I was pretty much on an island on that one. I was comfortable in that
space.
Position.
Yes.
I have no idea. I mostly think that what we've heard is the truth. And, like I talked to Jim Rutherford last week, and he noted, no, we don't want to go into LTIR. Very aware, of what the topics are right now, but being very cautious. Listen, they haven't had their physical back. We can't say anything until they're officially with us. So there we go. Certainly I haven't heard anything that goes against everything that's been reported elsewhere, which would be different from what I heard with Kessel, for instance.
So are you encouraged or discouraged by what Friedman had to say in that there is no surgical fix here? It's just something he's going to have to learn to play through.
I don't know. If it's a knee issue, if it's a meniscus thing, if it's a case of a knee that now is, not as functional as it once was, I'm just speculating, to be clear. Then yeah, that's just reality. That's the only thing I can kind of guess from a statement like that, is that you're just dealing with you're never 100% again. Once you get hurt, you're never 100%. The line from Presbalewski in The Wire being no one wins, one team just loses more slowly, applies here. That's life, that you're an athlete and you are never going to be young again. And that's just the simple truth. And you have to find ways going forward.
So the goalies,
very wishy-washy hit here from Johnston, huh? Maybe he does have some new Goodyear hybrid wiper blades. He dropped an "I don't know" on us, Blake.
That's honesty. That's honesty.
If you're new to punditry, you can drop an "I don't know."
Well, you talk to people.
As vested a guy as he is and drop an "I don't know" on us. Oh.
I don't, because I ask people who might know, and they either say I don't know or it's not hard to say. That's where we are, which is clearly what's been going on with everybody. So it's just kind of trying to stack up all the sticks and make them stick together. And
so that means
like a house.
We're looking at Shilovs, Patera, and Talapila as the.
At this point, listen, the fact that they did approach Kevin Lankinen is clear. You don't approach a free agent goalie if you don't have questions about what's going on.
Right.
And the fact that, as I wrote, my stories up this morning at province.com, as I wrote this morning, you don't go say we don't want to go into LTIR without also implying we'd rather not sign a contract. But the fact that is the matter is the contract's been, Kevin Lankin, maybe someone will show up on a PTO in the next week.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's pretty clear that has been a discussion. And why would you bring another goalie in if you weren't concerned about your number one?
Mm-hmm. Now, we know Thatcher has been doing stuff.
Yes. I've heard he's on the ice.
We get word, like, our friends are some of the marshals and regular players at Northlands, every time he shows up there to play golf, let us know.
Yeah.
And yet they held him out of the Milford, huh?
I guess. Or he was at the Gaudreau service.
Oh. Were they tight? Did you know?
Someone had suggested that. I honestly didn't. I didn't. That was a suggestion to me, but it was not something I ran down.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, there are many reasons why. Not everybody plays golf You're right. Most people do. Most people show up. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, it was mandatory. Like, even if you weren't playing golf, you showed up as a player to shake hands. And
things ain't like they used to be, Matt.
Right. In many ways.
But nobody wants to hear about our problems. No, listen. I can confirm what's been reported, that he's been on the ice. I don't know if he's been taking shots, but certainly he has been working his way back to being on, preparing for the season. So listen. I cannot say definitively whether he will be on the ice next Thursday, whether he will take shots. But it's clear to me that he is making progress, that there is some good news there. And what the timeline is, we're still a month out from the beginning of the regular season. Is there enough time there for ready for the regular season? I guess we'll see. We'll know more on Thursday.
And to the best of your knowledge, Artie is full go. She will be able to participate from the start of training camp.
Yeah, which I think was a curious one. The Latvians sort of telling us what they could, and which was most of the story. And the Canucks choosing to remain mum on it.
But them being the drivers of it, the Canucks being the drivers of that, do you think, or the Latvians just being overly cautious?
I think their silence spoke volumes there. I would bet.
Listen, in the end, the point was he was practicing really hard this summer. The Latvians said he's dealing with knee inflammation. The decision was made that he shouldn't play for the good of the totality of his season. He needed to take a step back, but that he will be ready to go for the beginning of the season. Now, the thing that I wasn't clear on, because I don't speak Latvian and I wasn't able to get a hold of anybody, was did they mean training camp or the regular season? Either way, it seems pretty clear. I mean, he's been on the ice. He was on the ice last week at UBC with his teammates. Declined to speak for, I get it. But yeah, he was on the ice. So taking shots and doing all the stuff. So I don't think there's any real anxiety at this point about him. Other than he trained too hard, which I suppose is not bad. But yeah, I mean, it's a demanding position. It's a hard position. Ian Clark pushes his goalies hard, and they've been successful because of it. Let's be clear on that, because there's been some notion, look how the risk he takes. Well, look how good his goalies
are. No, exactly. No,
right?
Quite right. I got no problem with hard driving coaches. Yeah. In fact, it's a bit of a lost art these days, but a great coach pushes you beyond what you anticipate are your boundaries, right? Pushes you out of your comfort zone and ultimately makes you better. And I mean, Clark has unquestionably done that.
And a topic that, Rick Talk and I have talked about, like that the coach's job is to help the player find their way to a place they didn't know they could get to. They didn't even know existed in a lot of cases, right? And that's the challenge. And it's that ability to sustain, and that applies to goalies as much as it applies to forwards.
As long as the other thing that should be crystal is that Demko and Clark are copacetic. They are absolutely. So
Demko went to bat. Let's not forget, Demko went to bat to get Ian Clark his contract.
That's right.
In the COVID season when everything was going wrong.
Right. So this is, whatever happened here with the goaltending coaching change and all that was of management's making. Yes. That was not driven by Thatcher Demko or.
The one thing that hard driving coaches lose sight of, though, is that they are made of the same material as you and I, that they do not possess titanium limbs, and they are going to suffer the rigmaroles of all the work that they do put in. And because they don't put in that work, they're not the ones doing the drills that they are ordering. I think sometimes that gets lost, and that's why injuries do occur. So there is a fine line to be walked. But
I don't know, Blake, you should see Rick Tocchet in a tight fitted shirt. That man may be made of titanium.
yeah, and Rod Brindamore alike.
Rod Brindamore especially. As someone who's taken a wedding photo with Rod Brindamore, I could confirm he may be made of titanium.
Prospects week, only one of the top 2 prospects for the Vancouver Canucks is, of course, up at Young Stars in Jonathan Lekremaki. But our poll question today asking, if it's a season similar enough to last year for the Vancouver Canucks, knowing all the delicate contract situations of these big-time players, 2 years left of Demko, et cetera, do they owe it to themselves to entertain trading one of Tom Wielander or Jonathan Lekremaki?
We're already there.
It's prospects. Do you trade one of your top 2 prospects?
If you are in an if you were in a position as strong as you were last year, I think you entertain that. I think it's if it means listen, they want part of the story of this LTIR not wanting to be an LTIR is because they want to accrue cap space that they want to use later in the season so they can add someone like last year's hot prize Jake Gensel, right? Or failing that, Tyler Toffoli, or failing that, like Chris Tanev didn't happen because they didn't have enough cap space. It was on the verge of happening. Like when they made the Kuzmenko trade, I had someone saying the Tanev thing might happen. But I was sitting there going, well, they're going to have to make then in the end, they couldn't make it work because of the cap situation. So listen, we know what they want. I mean, when Alvin, as I revealed on this program, when Alvin confirmed to me that he had been trying to get rid of Pullman's deal to clear off that cap, it was clear what they wanted to do, that they would like to be big game players. And to be a big game player, you're going to have to be willing to move something big. And sure, if they find themselves in a position where similar to where they were last year, where they're one of the top teams in the league on record, and they need to build themselves, add that extra piece that will help them get beyond the second round, get past the Oilers, get past the Vegas, whoever else you're running into in the Western Conference. Yeah, of course, one of those guys is going to probably have to be somebody you consider letting go.
And as much as you want to say, you got to save the defenseman. The defenseman's also the more valuable guy. So depending on who the target is.
Good answer.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt. I'm improving. See?
Getting a lot better here.
From I don't know to hot takes.
If we get this hit to 25 minutes, he's going to be sensational. Hughes says 20. DeBrusk says 25 to 35. No, they spoke it.
I know
they set the goals and they spoke it publicly, and I applaud them. And we had Corrado on yesterday. You said he loved the confidence, of that. But what do you make? Because as you know,
there's only
now
so
that
many
those
goals.
totals are out there, everyone will be keeping track at home.
J-Pat. I mean, this is J-Pat's thing, right? Like Brock. Brock won't play that game anymore.
No,
but. Listen, I love the bravado. I love the confidence. I did sit back and okay, wait, how many goals do they think are in these games? Because I also found myself thinking a little bit way back to Tyler Dello taking down, I can't remember who it was in Edmonton, predicting that the Oilers would have 9 guys with more than 40 or 50 points and 10 guys, there's only so many goals to get scored. I hope for the Canucks' sake that yes, Jake DeBrusk has an outstanding season because listen, that was an issue that Ilya Mikheyev couldn't finish, that PD needed a winger. PD could only do so much. I mean, listen, some of it was on him, sure, but some of it didn't help. You look at Game 7, what was I think back to that end of season press conference, I asked Rick Tocchet about, is there anything, that you think back, you wish was different? And I was kind of thinking about coaching, but he went and go, oh man, if Mikheyev had only scored. And he wasn't throwing Mikheyev under the bus, but he couldn't help but think, if that puck goes in, that puck gets buried, it's a totally different game. And they're still maybe playing. And, that's why you need DeBrusk. You need him to score goals. Did Ilya Mikheyev miss out on, he had 11 goals. He had 10 goals in whatever it was at Christmas, and then he just never scored again. So like, he could have had 20 goals. So you're asking DeBrusk to score the 10 to 15 goals that Mikheyev missed out on. Sure, that's easy. And then Hughes, he's going to keep trying to score. He's going to keep trying to score. If the Canucks can get 20 more goals out of this lineup, amazing. If 20 goals shift from someone else, well, that's a different story. Let's not forget that a huge issue coming down the stretch and into the playoffs was the Canucks had become too defensive. They weren't taking enough risks. And that's something the coach himself acknowledged, saying, I'm going to have to think about this differently. We have to think about how our system works. They defended well. They broke the puck out well, but they weren't in the end creating enough. And so when the shooting percentage bubble burst, how do you like that alliteration? When the shooting percentage bubble burst, there was nothing there. They weren't creating enough. And that was another reason why they lost to the Oilers.
It's a fairly skilled team on the forward line. Do you think early season they have a chance to? And they lost the start last year. The Oilers disproves this because they were still as skilled as they ever were, and they could not win.
Right.
But overall, I would think a skilled team in the loosey-goosey October-November part of the schedule. Shouldn't skill just win? Shouldn't you score goals and win those games if you are just more skilled?
Well, certainly that was the theory last year, part of the story. I mean, they had this insane shooting percentage.
Yeah.
Unprecedented. Let's not forget, we're not even talking about PDO. We're just talking about shooting percentage.
Yeah.
Unprecedented success putting the puck in the net. And some of that was luck. Some of that was the way they were playing. And some of that was, like what you just said, was the early season when teams are still sorting themselves out. I mean, this is the sort of reality of why, training camps are so short now, right? Preseason is let's get right at it. And teams are building these complicated systems. And the comparison made last fall, in his first fall with the team by Rick Tocchet, was learning the football playbook, right? You don't just start at the back. It's built. You build stuff as the season goes along. And that's true for all teams, that what they're trying to do defensively is evolving, it's improving, it's getting better as the season progresses. And so, yeah, you're exactly right, Blake. Like that's what the Canucks, that's the lesson that they were struggling to learn in previous seasons when they had those terrible starts. They would fall behind the 8-ball. And they were the teams that were getting used and abused because they couldn't figure out their defense and they couldn't score. And last year was the opposite. They were playing reasonably well defensively not right off the bat, but they figured it out pretty quick. Don't forget, Rick Tocchet did have to get on his team a little bit and get them to bear down. And they found their way. And, in the second half, they were one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. Well, in the first half, they were one of the best offensive. They outscored a lot of their problems, and they fixed their problems along the way. That's a lesson. That's what they need to do again this year. It's pretty simple, but also complicated.
Another good answer. Boy, we've gone from I don't know to master class.
It's warming up,
minutes here. Yes, absolutely. Well done.
Do we count this as his first hit of the season? Is this his preseason?
Well, he was with us all summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just an ongoing. It's a continuum.
Well, I think we were off. Last week we were off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm happy to be here.
So are we.
I want to switch gears here, and not an easy turn. We're having fun, but boy, you're writing a really heavy story here today about a former National Hockey Leaguer who had been living in our community. Tell us about Stephen Pete, for those who don't know.
Well, Stephen Pete was had a not a long run, but was an NHL enforcer about 20 years ago. He and I are about the same age, in his 20s, and but stories started popping up, I guess 10 years ago, that he'd been struggling a lot with mental health. That was unhoused, had been dealing with addiction, all sort of the worst things that we can imagine to go in our lives. And the large part of the story was soon a guy that had taken a lot of blows to his head. And there were a number of stories written about that, and it's been confirmed he's died at 44. Another talking to Corey Hirsch knew him a little bit because they played together in Washington a little bit, and a guy that you obviously Corey's a big mental health advocate, and so always wants to talk about a game that he loves, a game that did so much for him, but a game that has caused a lot of pain and suffering for a lot of people. And so, just sort of at the, while we're talking here, I'm still sort of in the middle of assembling the story, but trying to understand, this is a guy that, everyone deserves to be remembered. And a guy that sadly is in the middle of an ongoing story. There's going to be more about this. I mean, there's you just do a short list of players who have passed away this year, and Pete's one of them. Chris Simon, Sergei Berezin, Blaine Locker, guys that played in the NHL. Not all those guys were tough guys. There's a sad sort of common thread of personal health to all of these stories, and struggles after their playing career. And some of that may be unsolvable, but there is a question of support and how do people transition into regular life. And Corey noted to me, said, listen, all his buddies are sort of starting to think about retirement. His buddies who didn't play hockey, they had a long career working, they saved their money. Guys who played, they get a bit of a pension. Corey's got a pension, but it's like the rest of us. He doesn't, if he really wants his full pension, he's got to wait till he's 65, and he's still in his early 50s. He's got to figure out how he bridges to that. And when you played hockey, you often don't know anything else. And Corey is one of the lucky ones in that he's found his way to being a mental health advocate and has worked a little bit as a coach and a broadcaster. But a guy like Stephen Pete, who is, had a simple role on the team and has clearly struggled in his post hockey life. And there's a lot to be discussed there, both a personal level and a larger scale.
I got to say, I think it's one thing that leagues and players associations, players unions could get together and do more of, and that is take care of past players, players who didn't play in eras where when you made the team, you're instantly in the high six figures or seven figures beyond, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The bottom line now is you do not have to play an awfully long time in any of the big four North American sports leagues to be financially set for life. And when you go back 30 years, depends on the sport a little bit, but 20, 30, 40 years, you have cohorts of past players for whom that was completely the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Like you had to play a long time
to
be financially set for life.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that leagues and unions could do a little bit more for those players, because effectively they help build the leagues and the teams and the unions that now exist today and deliver such riches to everybody
Something
involved.
to watch too, guys, is the latest date for all of these players that keep passing away. What's the latest season that they played, and honestly, what's their starting date too? And it's going to be disconcerting as we sort of graduate out of the old timey era of fighting. Are we still going to see these sorts of tragic cases here just from regular old hockey? What we figure now is just regular hockey, the odd fight here and there. But it feels like the sport's in a pretty decent spot, not a ton of fighting every now and then. Like, it doesn't seem like fighting is prevalent. But are we still going to see these brain injuries,
Two things stand out. One, hockey, and one is a different sport. But the hockey one, to your point, like, I mean, in many ways, if you think about it, you think about way junior hockey, the dub in the late 80s, right? When Corey, for instance, hockey was playing, and how truly wild hockey.
Very little hockey, mostly fighting.
Right. And those guys, a lot of those guys translate into the NHL, right? And so through the 90s into the early 2000s, you have a lot of those types of guys, right? So there's a sort of guys that are, in their mid 50s now. And then that carries on, there's sort of, like I said, Steve and Pete were the same age, carries on, until about, 15 years ago, right? So there's sort of a 20-year window of players that we're dealing with, getting punched in the head, and they're probably going to be the lead item. But it now evolves. I mean, Greg Johnston, you can add Greg Johnston to this list, who's, his family revealing earlier this summer that after they had donated his brain to science and the brain was analyzed and he had CTE. And there's a guy who didn't fight, and Sergei Berezin. I mean, we don't know what happened with Sergei Berezin, but the skill player who clearly struggled in his post-hockey career. But what I found myself thinking also is rugby. Rugby is now dealing with the effects of what's become a very heavy contact, obviously minimal padding, all about your body. And, since it turned professional almost 30 years ago, the sort of consequences of heavier body size, heavier players smacking each other, not punching each other, but tackling each other hard. And, they're dealing with heightened issues of things like CTE, early onset dementia, other brain issues, like a much higher rate of what we call ALS in North America, and they call NMD motor neuron disease. Players suffering debilitating neurological illnesses because of contact. And so I mean that is a very similar story. And like you said, Blake, where is this going to evolve? We're moving out of the enforcer era. Now we're just moving into this sort of this high speed era, but there's still head contact. I mean, obviously, I would say credit to most sort of levels of hockey trying to take concussions more seriously. Teams don't rush players back. They try, we don't hear about guys being sent out, despite not knowing where they are. The stories of Gino Ojic. I mean, there's a story from Gino after he retired from about 10 years ago where he told an audience that basically he realized he'd become addicted to getting punched in the head. That's a very extreme case, but there's an adrenaline rush that a lot of these guys get from playing hockey, from skating hard, from the physical parts of the game. And there's still going to be guys that are putting their heads on the line. And you hope that what guys like Stephen Pete have gone through becomes less and less of a thing. But we would be unwise to assume that's going to be the case.
Yeah, Stephen Pete, born in Princeton, British Columbia, played for the Langley Thunder of the BCJHL for a couple of seasons before ultimately a second-round pick, 32nd overall, and gets to the National Hockey League and plays 130 games with the Washington Capitals. Gone at age 44, and we express our sympathies, condolences to his friends and families. We'll read the story. We'll have you back next week. Thanks for this, Peach.
Take care, guys.